In a world that's on fire, thank God for movies. I'm John Negroni from the San Francisco Bay Area, and from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, he's, of course, Will Ashton, baby. He's good and nice. Do-do-do.
Oh, wow. Oh, we got a musical. This is a musical episode. That's fun.
Wait, do you know what that's a reference to?
Yeah, the song.
Yeah, you know which song?
But
Yeah, the Dr. Pepper thing. I was just making sure. I didn't, okay. I wasn't sure if you were aware of that.
Well, you didn't watch the Super Bowl this year, right?
Well, do you know the backstory of that commercial? I didn't watch the Super Bowl, so they aired it.
Well, I think they did something with Dr. Pepper. I remember
Yes,
something.
okay, Will. Oh my gosh, you don't know about this. Okay. So that theme song started on TikTok like a month, 2 months ago or whatever. This woman put out this TikTok.
You showed me this, yes.
I thought I sent it to you, but I was like, oh, maybe I didn't. Maybe it got lost in the mail. But yeah, she's like, I have a theme song for Dr. Pepper, and it goes like this. And she goes, Dr. Pepper, baby, it's good and nice, do-do-do. And then a bunch of other people started making it into a theme song, and it sounded really cool. And then Dr. Pepper was like, all right, fine, we'll pay you a couple $1,000,000. And then they turned it into a real thing. To be fair, I think a lot of the other versions that TikTok created sounded way better, but it's still really cool.
Yeah, it's a nice little heartwarming story.
I don't even like Dr. Pepper, and I wanted to drink some.
I don't know what that has to do, rather, with
that good of a
anything we're gonna
commercial? It
discuss.
made me be like, oh, I want to try Dr. Pepper. I don't even like it.
Did you see any of the commercials this year for the Super Bowl?
No, I heard it was a big AI fest, and it sucked.
Yeah, that was
particularly
a big
the
thing.
Dunkin' Donuts one.
Yeah, that one wasn't the worst. That one was just one of them. That was more de-aging. I don't know if that was AI in particular, but yeah, there was just a lot of stuff with AI, a lot of stuff with like crypto coin and the stuff as usual.
Or there was a lot of like
really
gambling stuff.
Yeah,
and,
well, of course.
Yeah.
There are a couple of fun ones. You saw the one, I guess, before the movie, the Adrian Brody one. That was kind of cute. I like the one that was like for men checking prostate cancer. Did you see that one?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, I didn't watch any of them. I did watch the Bad Bunny halftime show. That was pretty fire.
Oh, that was great. Yeah. Your cousin was there.
My cousin Ricky Martin was there. Real cousin. But yeah, man, I got to tell you that the TurboTax, for people who were like the TurboTax, Adrian Brody. So basically, I gave Will a report of everything I watched right before Send Help started. Which, speaking of which, we're going to talk about Send Help on the show today. Sorry for the delayed intro. But yeah, we're going to talk about Send Help, the new film from Sam Raimi. Before that, we're going to do a tribute to Catherine O'Hara, which I'm really excited about. You know, I'm not excited, of course, that she passed away, but I do think it's an opportunity to talk about a really great person. So I'm looking forward to that. Before we get started, don't forget, if you're a fan of Thank God for Movies, formerly known as Cinemaholics, we do have a website, thankgodformovies.com, where you can find the podcast, and you can also find stuff we've been writing. Will has a column on there called Franchise Fixations. He has a new one coming out that technically he wrote a year ago.
Oh, yeah.
So there's that. We have a Stanley Kubrick ranking that I did of his 13 films, which is really fun. And one of our listeners actually did the artwork for that one, which is really cool. The person who did the music actually for Thank God for Movies. So Jason Leo. So I think you can find, I don't know if he's on Ko-fi or anything like that, where you can like buy him a coffee. He's awesome. But he's been helping us. He's been helping us with like a lot of stuff. But anyway, so you can check that out. I don't know, Will, did you like my Kubrick ranking or did you hate it?
I mean, there's stuff I disagreed with, but I thought
naturally
you articulated your points well, you know. The only thing that I did want to that grinded my gears and I wanted to give you some ruckus for is you were saying Dr. Strangelove is like the only intentionally funny Kubrick film or something along those lines. And that is absolutely
Did I
false.
word it exactly like that? Was I a little absolutist?
You were pretty absolutist, yeah. You framed it in a way that's like, this is the only film of his that's like actually funny or something. And I was like, how dare you? How freaking dare you? Barry Lyndon is so funny.
I'm not seeing that here.
Dr. Strangelove, actually, hot take, I don't even think that's his best comedy.
I'm looking at this. I don't see myself saying. I said it's the only film on this list that's genuinely funny.
Yes.
Which makes it, yeah.
That's
I am being a little
and wrong.
maybe funny isn't the right word. I wasn't really going for, I think it's like, he's really trying to kind of go, okay. Yeah,
No.
I mean, I get it. I get the
He
complaint.
Okay. Part of the whole thing with Eyes Wide Shut, and I don't want to get on a tangent here, but like he was, for his whole career, he was like obsessed with the idea of like doing like a marital comedy to the point where, and they even talk, I was watching the Rob Reiner documentary on Albert Brooks when he passed, as a small tee up to what you're going to talk about later, in part. And yeah, he was talking about how, and this is a story I've heard before, but he confirmed it, that after he made Modern Romance, he got a call, like an hours-long call from Stanley Kubrick, and it was like, "I saw your movie, and I really want you to tell me how you did this." Like, he kept like, picking him apart, being like, "How did you get this? How did you do this? How did you do that?" And Albert Brooks is just like, "I just made a movie about my relationship. This is the guy that put a guy on the roof in 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's like, why are you calling me, asking how I made Modern Romance?" But that's the thing. That was his like whole intent and goal. And that's why Eyes Wide Shut in part is one of his funniest films, and also I think
I don't
his
think his
best.
other, okay. It's not that I don't think his other films have funny stuff in them. Obviously they do. Even Barry Lyndon kind of cracks me up sometimes.
It's
What I'm
funny.
saying is I think it's really like a comedy. Like it's more as a whole a funny movie as opposed to a movie that happens to have funny stuff. There's funny things that happen in Lolita, as sick as that is. I mean, it's just, I
You
get it, but yeah. I'll, save it for the folks who want to read it. But at the end, I kind of point out ranking Kubrick is kind of arbitrary in a lot of ways. And my thoughts on it change all the time. Sometimes I have Eyes Wide Shut a little higher. Sometimes I have Full Metal Jacket all the way up to number one. I mean, it depends on the day. I don't know.
you're
But
what you should have said, I think, if I could editorialize, is Dr. Strangelove is the only directly satirical Kubrick film, not
mm,
his only genuinely funny one. His
I
most
think Full Metal
directly.
Jacket's kind of satirical too, though.
Okay, actually,
Unless you
that's
mean
one of
it.
his I haven't seen.
Full Metal Jacket?
You haven't seen it.
Well, let's movie night it up. It's a classic. It's so much fun. You get to
I'm
watch
sure it's a
two movies,
classic.
really. I'm sure you've
Yeah, that's
heard.
what I've heard. Yeah, I
Yeah.
heard
So
people
yeah.
prefer the first half over the second, but
I love Full Metal Jacket. That's just a great, all around great movie. One of the great Clancy Brown performances. Vincent D'Onofrio. Oh my god. Yeah, movie night. So let's make it happen. But with that, let's talk about Catherine O'Hara. And I got genuinely pretty emotional when we got the news. It was very much. I remember like in the group chats and stuff. Like there was just this like collective like, wait, what? Because it's Catherine O'Hara. Like no one was really outside of, I think, her like close personal life, her private life, we really just didn't see this coming. But I think it could be really nice though to talk about how great of a person she was, what her career really meant, and the stamp that she left, the legacy that she left. I think that, kind of starting with the big picture of it, I've been thinking a lot about like what was it about O'Hara throughout her career. We'll talk about a couple of the things, that she's of course known for and everything else, but I think like when you take it at its whole, I think the thing about Catherine O'Hara is that she was somebody who really understood self-delusion, like how self-delusion could be done through a performance. I think that it's almost kind of simplistic to refer to her as like merely a great comedian. I think she was definitely one of the most important screen performers of like the past half century. She's just been constantly working, but despite that, she never played a fool. I look through her stuff, and this is a woman who just she constructed this elaborate architecture of self-presentation that we got to watch in real time over the years. We came up on Home Alone, obviously. The 90s is like when you and I were watching movies for the first time. We became conscious in the 90s. And so she's always been kind of a fixture, in our cinema, TV going lives. And I think the way that she approached comedy, it's a lot harder than it probably looks. I think especially these days, comedy is lousy with performers who can play stupid or vain or oblivious. But O'Hara, who, we should say she passed away January 30th, so not too long ago. We're recording this February 10th. She died at the age of 71. I think in all of her years, she did something really dangerous and thrilling for a comedian. She played a woman who was working so hard at being the person people wanted her to be. She let you kind of see her effort. I think, like I think of like Lola Heatherton, from SCTV. I think of her character in Beetlejuice, Delia Dietz. Cookie Fleck from Best in Show. And for me, I mean, Moira Rose in Schitt's Creek. I don't know if you ever watched Schitt's Creek. I don't think we ever talked about it. But I mean, huge role for her in more recent memory.
Yeah, I mean, I only watch a little bit of Schitt's Creek. But to your point, I mean, I think part of the reason why her passing was so devastating is that there's never really a fall off. Like, she was just consistently doing her thing, working, and consistently good. And she had so many arcs, like you said, like there was SCTV, there was like all the Tim Burton stuff, like you said with the Beetlejuice, but then the next arc came with like Home Alone, and then there was the Christopher Guest films that she was a part of, like Best in Show, as you mentioned, as well as For Your Consideration, where she's a lead. Yeah, I mean, it just like, and then you get to Schitt's Creek, and then see all these voice work and all these like, things that she's done, and Nightmare Before Christmas, like one of her best films, and it's just like that's not even the like fifth thing I think about with her. She just built such a esteemed and prolonged career. And as you mentioned, I think she always stayed kind of true to herself. I think she always was able to kind of find the funny in a variety of ways. She could be subtle, she could be broad, she could be physical, she could just be funny in a very, understated dialogue driven way. She could be improv funny, all this stuff. I was just, I mean, if you just go back, like I was watching clips from Beetlejuice where she's, so big and so broad, and I watched like all the stuff from like Best in Show, and she has like this great physical bit where she like falls down and like fakes an injury, and it's just so good. And yeah, I mean, it's just like I said, there was never that point where it's just like, oh, Catherine O'Hara like fell off. It was just like people may have not paid less attention to her, or maybe she did smaller things, but she was always delivering and always doing the best work she could do. And I think it just felt like we had like maybe another 15 years or so of great performances or things that we could expect from her. And so that's why I think it was just all so sudden that she still felt so present and so, vital as a comedian and star. And yeah, it's just kind of heartbreaking to know that she's not around. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like kind of looking through her past and some of the things people were saying about her. Just one of the things a lot of people in her life have said that have worked with her is like she was a great listener. Just somebody who really had an ear for good writing, good comedy. One of her most recent projects was The Studio, which I don't think you've seen yet, but great show, really fun Hollywood satire with Seth Rogen, and she has a great character role in it, especially in the last episode of that season. And it's tricky to think about, like what that show will do without her. It's hard to accept.
Yeah, she
kind of going to go ahead.
She was Emmy nominated for that show too, and
now
I
didn't
it's going to
realize.
be a posthumous nomination or a potential win, depending on how the awards shake out.
Yeah. So a little bit about her past too. She trained in Toronto, Toronto's second city in the mid-70s. She was actually, I didn't know this, but she was an understudy for Gilda Radner before taking over for Radner when she left SNL in its sixth season, but she was only there for a week. I did know that she was in SNL, but like for a very, very short amount of time. But yeah, I didn't realize she was an understudy. I was like, but she didn't have any formal training otherwise, but she still had like what sticks out to me, she had a really great capacity for observation of like other people's rhythms, their self-protective habits, and how people kind of hold their faces when they're trying to like, hold it together. And so she talked a lot about there's a thing she did with the New Yorker in 2019 where she talked about how she would play like super insane when she would do improv, and how she liked to play women who had this like specific brand of like insanity that to her would make internal sense. I mean, she was so cerebral about something so silly, which is so fun to me. I find that to be one of the hidden or maybe not so hidden qualities of what made her so good. And I think that to what you were saying, I think it's also what really made her fit so well for her Christopher Guest collaborations. A lot of people have said that's the most transcendent work of her career. I'll admit I'm not as read up as you are on the Christopher Guest stuff, but I definitely take your word for it. I think that anything where you have a person here who has to improvise essentially like all the dialogue, and her other stuff, right? And I think she has constantly been like pushing herself. Constantly like doing these projects like Best in Show and Waiting for Guffman and all these things that I just get such a versatility from her. Like I get this kind of like person who could basically do it all.
Yeah, I mean, we've only really touched like the surface of her stuff. I mean, like you mentioned, there's Waiting for Guffman. There's After Hours, which she's fantastic in the supporting part. Yeah, I mean, but uh, yeah, I mean, I think as you mentioned, she was also someone who could really just like articulate well uh all the kind of silly things that proved that she was always so thoughtful and dynamic about even the such silly and kind of goofy things. And I always love when people can be very thoughtful and articulate about being absolutely silly.
Same here, same here. And yeah, when it comes to Schitt's Creek, I think it's such an important role for her because it really did cement her as this cross-generational icon, right? I think Moira Rose, unforgettable. Like the way she created and crafted that character, she had this thing where she wouldn't tell the castmates what she was going to do before the cameras rolled. So they heard like that infamous accent for the first time while they're shooting. And Dan Levy has said like he had to suppress his laughter, in order to stay in character. And O'Hara talked a lot about like the voice, like it's an iconic voice. Like people still say bebe instead of baby all the time because of Moira Rose, because of Catherine O'Hara, and she had said that this character was invented by like based on like these entirely new personas she created out of things like insecurity and pride and all of these things that kind of reflected her emotional state. It was all her idea. She has this like wardrobe in the show inspired by Daphne Guinness, and it's just such a fun role to watch. I mean, she's one of those characters. She's so central to the show, right? I mean, she won an Emmy for it, obviously, toward its end. But I think it's a performance that I think that like, people can all kind of agree was just universally like great. In a show that already had so many other great performances and so many other great characters, she still stands out so well. I mean, I can still rewatch that show and laugh pretty constantly with it. And I still haven't seen her turn in The Last of Us. She was in the second season. I haven't seen the second season of that show yet. So I don't know how that turned out, but I know that show, of course, is quite beloved. And now I'm feeling like I need to go back to that show and check it out. I'm really curious. It's going to be one of her final roles that we'll get to see.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, like I said, I haven't seen a lot of Schitt's Creek. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I do know it's just like an outsider to the show that 8 out of 10 times when people were talking about the show, it was usually about Catherine O'Hara and like what she was saying, what something she was doing, her performance. And yeah, I mean, again, like I think part of the reason it's so immeasurable is just like she was doing present popular work. She was a voice in The Wild Robot. She came back for Beetlejuice. She was, yeah, like you said, in the studio and doing all these things. Like it wasn't like she had a slowdown period. If anything, I felt like it was like it's amazing that she's consistently doing as much as she is. I mean, and like even though Schitt's Creek gave her like a boost, like I said, it didn't feel like it was like she was out of the limelight ever. If anything, it just kind of felt like she kind of just had different modes of being either in the smaller stuff like Christopher Guest or just like the mainstream stuff, either as a voice actress or as a physical presence. So yeah, it's yeah, I am just so deeply bummed to know that we don't have any more Catherine O'Hara performances to come.
I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. And so I guess on that somber note, saying goodbye to Catherine O'Hara and such a great career, I think that it's only fitting that we ask for help. We ask for help from one of our old pals, somebody who always can put a smile on our face in the middle of some terror and horror, and that's, of course, Sam Raimi. Will Ashton, our boy, is back. Sam Raimi has returned. I have been praying every night, my nightly prayers. I'm like, Jesus, please let Sam Raimi make another movie for me, please. And Jesus has said, no, 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 John, you've been a sinner. And Sam Raimi is only for the holy. And well, come to find out, Jesus was lying because Sam Raimi's for everybody. And by everybody, I mean me and about 4 other people in that movie theater that I just watched this movie in. So, Will, I'm ready to talk to you about Send Help. This is a movie I have been looking forward to so much, and I feel like the world was against me in terms of being able to see it. Every time I missed both screenings, and every time I tried to go watch this movie, something came up, and it's my fault, obviously. But yeah, all I can say is I'm so glad to talk about this movie with you right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I've said it before. I'm sure I even said it during our review of Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness. But he's one of my favorite guys ever. You know, he's
our guy.
Yeah, he's just like an absolute blast. I mean, he's someone who I look up to immensely. He is a real DIY filmmaker who, you know, just kind of fresh out of college age, he just came and made a movie that continues to define the genre, define filmmaking styles. It's integral to who he is as a filmmaker.
And when you say that, there are multiple movies you could be talking about.
Sure, yeah. I mean, he is, you know, he's the Evil Dead guy. He's the Spider-Man guy. You know, he's the Drag Me to Hell guy. I mean,
don't forget Oz the Great and Powerful.
Sure. And the thing about him is, like, I was looking at his filmography, and there are a couple, actually, maybe a few films of his I haven't seen. But, like, even the ones that are considered duds, I still kind of like. Of the ones I've seen, there's a couple, like, For Love of the Game I haven't seen, and I haven't seen The Gift, which I know is a little contentious as well. But, like, Crime Wave is a film I think is actually kind of underrated. I have a soft spot for Spider-Man 3. I actually don't even think Oz the Great and Powerful is that bad. I would put it over both Wicked movies, to be honest. There's something about him, and I think it is kind of in part because even at his, like, restraint, you see that style. You see that twinkle in his eye kind of come out, and it just reminds you of, like, how alive a filmmaker can be. And I think part of the reason why this project was so exciting is just like, all right, he's going to be unguarded. He's going to get an R rating again. Drag Me to Hell didn't even have an R rating. He's going to...
Probably should have. That's a pretty gnarly movie.
It is, but I think, to me, the thing about Drag Me to Hell is, like, I don't even really think about how it's PG-13 when I watch it. It's just like, you get everything you want out of it and then some. So
you want some great poetry, by the way. So I remember Drag Me to Hell was a double feature for me, because right before I watched Drag Me to Hell, I watched the Muppet movie.
Oh, okay.
And here we are in 2026, 15 years later, and I am watching Send Help, a new Sam Raimi film, right after watching The Muppet Show on Disney Plus special event, which is great. I don't know if you watched it already. I'm sure Matt Serafini told you your friendship is over if you don't. Speaking of which, can we get Matt on the show and talk about the Muppets?
Yeah. I mean, the other poetry of that is that it's you know, at that time, I'm assuming you watched Drag Me to Hell late because The Muppets was 2011. But that was one Freaks and Geeks actor reviving the franchise. And now we have another Freaks and Geeks actor reviving the franchise with a new Sam Raimi movie out. So a part of the circle of doom. Yeah.
That is indeed the case. But yeah, you know, Sam Raimi, my thing with him, I think that I very much believe we're in agreement. He's one of the unsung craftsmen of American cinema. I think a lot of people forget him, underestimate him. I think too, like, even people who are, you know, at least aware of him, I think they think like, oh, Sam Raimi, okay, yeah, Evil Dead, schlock, camp, sure, whatever. And yeah, I mean, that's all true. But I think that there's like a formal intelligence to what Raimi does with the camera that is extraordinary, that I don't think he always gets enough credit for. I think that specifically his crash zooms, his whip pans, and the way he always uses the frame, it's always like very aggressive and confrontational. It's a very specific style. And I think that for Raimi, he's not somebody who uses that stuff to like show off or to kind of get all film school with everybody. He uses it to just tell a story. And I think that's what makes him such an emotional director. That's his kind of like carving out of emotional storytelling. And I think when he is like really going for it, when he's operating in his element, full tilt with material that lets him be him, then yeah, I mean, there are very few directors working today who I think can really match him for this like sheer kinetic joy. Which brings me to Send Help.
Yeah, I mean,
Send Help.
I just say real quick.
Yeah.
And the reason I brought up those 3 different projects is that I think whether it's, you know, a literal shoestring budget like the first Evil Dead, you know, an actual blockbuster like the Spider-Man movies, or the medium budget film like Drag Me to Hell, or even outside the genre stuff, A Simple Plan, which is an immensely underrated Coen-esque small town drama. Yeah, he's a director who's like, he knows exactly what he wants to do, and if he has the money, he'll do it. If he doesn't have the money, he's gonna get a 2x4 and just like push through, and like, hell or high water, he's gonna get it. And I think that's part of the reason why he's so great, is that he knows, he has the vision. He's had the vision from the beginning when he was like a 22-year-old filmmaker making that movie. It's like, he'll find a way to do it if he can. And I think that also kind of leads into some of the mild criticisms I have of this film, but I want you to introduce the film before I get into any of that.
Sure, let's go. Okay, so Send Help. I think on the surface, Send Help, very, very simple proposition, which I like. Rachel McAdams plays this woman named Linda Little. Great name. Very Leslie Knope. She's this brilliant but very socially awkward corporate strategist. So basically the person who actually keeps the company she works for running. And she gets passed over for a promotion by this guy named Bradley Preston, played by Dylan O'Brien. And he is this absolutely smug, entitled Nepo baby CEO. He's inherited the business from his late father. He has absolutely no respect for Linda. They do end up on a plane to Bangkok for a business merger, and the plane goes down in a storm, very Castaway style. But of course, it's Sam Raimi, so it's going to be way more unhinged than your typical plane crash scene. The two of them wash up on a deserted island as the only survivors. And from there, the power dynamic flips entirely, because Linda, who it's been set up at this point in the film quite well that she is crucially an obsessive fan of Survivor. She spent her Survivor, the show, she spent her life preparing for this exact kind of scenario. So she turns out to be the competent one who can get them out of this. Bradley, on the other hand, is totally useless. He's injured from the crash. He's totally helpless. He's got nothing to offer in this situation. So from there, the film becomes this increasingly dark, increasingly twisted, increasingly Raimi exploration of what happens when the hierarchy gets stripped away and the person who was always on the bottom suddenly holds all the cards. Now, here's what I find interesting about this whole scenario, and what I think elevates this movie beyond a mere revenge fantasy, which it could have very easily have been that, and it still would have been, I think, pretty enjoyable. But the film is actually like sincerely asking a question I find very interesting. Isn't it satisfying when the bullied employee gets the upper hand? It says that for a while, right? And it's enormously fun when it does. But then it starts to complicate that question. It starts to suggest that maybe, the power itself is the problem. And that maybe Linda, when given dominance, is not simply going to be the benevolent version of what Bradley was, arguably. And that is where I think the film gets its teeth. It gets its gnarliness. That's where it kind of goes from this like workplace catharsis, survival comedy, and starts becoming something more horror tone, something actually unsettling. And all of this is wrapped in what I think is unmistakably a Sam Raimi picture. You've got Danny Elfman doing the score, Bill Pope is behind the camera, Bob Murawski in the edit suite. The band is back together, Will Ashton. I was so happy this entire movie, as soon as I heard Danny Elfman, oh my God, Raimi is just, he's having the time of his life. I think give him a movie where he can have, like, he has a reason to have the puke, blood. There's a wild boar that looks like it's out of like a PlayStation 3 cutscene on purpose. I was giddy during this movie. The sad thing is that there was only like a few other people in the theater. Nobody else is laughing. Everybody is taking this movie so seriously. And I'm laughing my butt off throughout this movie because I'm having fun again. I'm back in my Evil Dead kind of like mode. And I think it all really works. I have my own kind of quibbles with this movie. I want to get your overall take too. Certainly, it's an imperfect, flawed, little beautiful thing of a movie, but I'm so happy with it. I'm so happy with Rachel McAdams. She's so good in this. She's magnificent. I'm just like, I said this on Letterboxd. I have not fallen in love with a character so instantly since maybe RRR. And even then, I think that took a few seconds. This character, like immediately, with the bird, give me a break. This movie rules.
Yeah, it does rule. And to go off of what you were noting before, I mean, when I was watching the film, it didn't really hit me like how much this is a quintessential Raimi kind of project, in the sense that like so many, outside like the Spider-Man and all that stuff, him and his element is really characters caught in one place or trapped against a wall, fighting forces beyond their control. And in this case, obviously, it's people trapped on an island. The difference in this case, and what I find really compelling and part of a growth for Raimi, is that rather than it being like supernatural forces, like the Necronomicon or, a curse or what have you, it's your boss or subsequently your coworker. And it's that human element mixed with the Raimi's, classic tour de force, lean and mean, nasty style that, really amplifies this into a pulpy, grisly delight. And I don't want to like throw other movies under the rug necessarily, but like I remember last year, a lot of people were like sending flowers to Companion, which is a film I thought was just like okay. And I feel like that was a film that was like, is kind of thriving on its own like little twists and having a pro-feminist message. Nothing against that, obviously, but I feel like that movie never quite got beyond the like expected sort of little beats. It didn't really feel like it had as much fun with the premise as it could. This movie kind of takes a similar idea and just really runs with it outside of the like technology element. Just the idea of like someone kind of sticking it to their toxic, dopey boss and really just doing cool, fun, weird, wacky things. And the other thing about this that I really find interesting and fun and fascinating is this is his divorce movie. He made this movie, I think, shortly after his wife filed for divorce of like 30. And, we've had a history of filmmakers who obviously get mean when they get a divorce or in the process of divorce. You have like the classic like Temple of Doom scenario, which is like, I don't know. I know people love that movie. I think there's stuff about it I've grown to like more and as time goes on, but I still find that to be a kind of unsettling, kind of just unlikable film in a lot of ways. And then on the opposite end of that, you have something like Batman Returns, which is so mean and nasty, but like great at the same time and awesome and one of the best Batman movies ever. I feel like this is somewhere right in the middle of that, where it's like it's not quite all the way to Batman Returns. And I think it's because for as much as you got Raimi in The Thing again, and in fairness, Bill Pope and Danny Elfman were also involved with Multiverse of Madness. Obviously, there's a lot of conflicting factors with Kevin Feige involved, but they were there. So it wasn't like, a full return for them, to your point. But I think this movie, the one thing that hinders it for me is that unlike something like Drag Me to Hell, you can kind of feel the sort of like itchiness of having worked with a lot of blockbusters. Like there's a lot of special effects in this that I felt like didn't really feel super necessary. There's a lot of green screen. There's a lot of kind of wonky CGI. Even like some of the like gooey effects were amplified with CG when I feel like practical would have been a lot more advantageous for this. And there are a lot of practical effects, especially when it comes to the blood and guts and puke. But I do feel like there is something that felt a little shorted by me by having Sam Raimi kind of not go back to like being fully hands-on and being in the muck of it with these practical effects. I'm not expecting Evil Dead 2 again, but you saw like Drag Me to Hell, like he could still get practical. He could still kind of get his hands dirty and stuff while still having the comfort of like a mid-budget film. And I felt like just because he kind of relied a little bit too much on the slack of CG and stuff, it did kind of hinder it for me a little bit. But that, in the scheme of things, is a pretty minor criticism, because for any issues I have with that, Amy Adams is just so constantly bringing it and so
Rachel
willing
McAdams.
to do. Sorry.
Amy Adams. Can you imagine that version of the movie?
Rachel McAdams, who one of our most underrated actresses. I know she works a lot. She's Oscar nominated. People do take for granted how versatile and exceptional she is as an actress.
Agreed.
She can do comedy well. She can do drama really well. She can do stuff like this where it's horror and have to become basically 3 different people over the course of this movie, believably. Whatever kind of silliness and like shortcomings there are in the script, which I think are few and far between, I think she really sells them. And I think, for the slight hiccups that come, with a movie like this, I think it really is amplified by having an honestly tour de force performance by a lead actress. And Dylan O'Brien is also quite good as well. I mean, he doesn't have as much to do, but, he's been on a win streak with this and Twinless. So, yeah, both performers are bringing it. And Sam Raimi's back, and who could complain about that?
I definitely agree. And, Yeah, O'Brien is good in this. I mean, he's good at playing the kind of like the smug nepo baby. It's so weird to see him too. Like this is such a drastically different role from Twinless. That's such a drastically different role from what he's done with like Maze Runner, Teen Wolf. Like kind of watching this guy kind of grow and sort of figure himself out in terms of like what kind of movies he wants to do, what kind of genre stuff he wants to do. It's been cool to see. And I think Rachel McAdams, similarly, she has just been similar to Catherine O'Hara, as we were talking about. She's like always working, always coming up with like these really interesting characters, and it's just like such a consistent actress, like consistently great. I hear you on the CGI stuff. Didn't bother me as much, honestly. Maybe because like I'm so like in the movies like surrealness that it didn't take me out of it, but I could see like, I mean, to me, I see how bad the boar looks, and I just find it funny. I was just kind of like,
I take no issue with. It's more the like some of the CG screen in the plane crash, the green screen mostly.
I loved the plane crash. I thought that
altogether it's fun. Yeah, I mean the plane crash, how nasty it gets is so.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, I was just like, oh, this is like terrifying, and like I just love the way it plays. My criticism, I have like a couple. I think that like we spend a little bit too much time in the office stuff in the beginning. I was kind of getting to that point. I was like, can we just get to the island? Because I think I get it. I get the point of like really trying to make her workplace awful enough to justify what happens in the rest of the movie and her kind of like her arc, right? But I don't know. I didn't feel like there was enough texture to it, like enough believable sort of like, I don't know. It was just such a cartoon in terms of like the people she works with. And I don't know. The execution for me it was a little bit too broad. And so like I think back and I'm like, yeah, it's the weakest part of the movie. My favorite stuff in the beginning stuff is like where we're just hanging out with Linda in her apartment. I'm just like, she's super fun. You know, watching Survivor with her bird, having a nice time. It's like, that's all I needed. But I get it. It serves a function. It's not like it comes out of nowhere or that it's wasted time necessarily. But I guess my other thing is I think it's about 10 minutes too long. I think it could be a little bit tighter. There was a moment where I was like, I think we need to wrap this up. Like we've been having fun, but you know, every roller coaster needs to end. The only other thing, and it's more getting into spoiler stuff. I think I'm still not 100% sold on something that happens in this movie kind of toward the climax. And like, I'm trying really hard to give the movie the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, it's okay. Like, is it set up? Does it really make sense? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if it really quite works. It's a great ending. It's the ending I expected 100%. I don't know. There was something that it just didn't quite, like something about the character didn't quite sit right with me. And so obviously I can't say anything more than that unless we opened it up for a spoiler discussion, which I don't know if you're interested in.
Well,
but of course we would want to see what our friends think of the movie for that.
Again, I think that's like kind of where the CG kind of knocks it for me, because like when you get to some of the stuff at the end, I'm like, I generally don't know if we're supposed to take this literally or if it's like kind of more abstract or like something that's kind of happening in your head. I can't really tell in full because like it looks a little dreamlike at times with the CG. My only I didn't really mind the office stuff. I agree it's not as strong as some of the fun bits in the island, but for me, I would say it did kind of feel like the gap between the second and third act felt a little rushed to me. Like it feels like it kind of has to progress to a certain point, and they kind of like fast forward to it. And it's like, okay, I don't know. I get like technically, you know, it gets there because we need to get there. I don't know if I fully believe it's just like, and now this is going to happen. But you know, like I said, these are minor quibbles. The only real like actual criticism I have is that kind of towards the end, there are a couple character things with Linda's character that I don't fully buy. Like the way she's like her trust in certain things feels a little scripted to me. Like I felt like I don't believe she'd be acting this way in this moment by this point in the film. I feel like she would be smarter about this because we know that she's smarter than this. But like I know you need this beat in order for this thing to happen. So it's like a little like, okay, I get why you have to do this. It does feel a little like, okay, let's get to the good thing. But yeah, I don't know. They're minor criticisms, but they kind of add up. But like at the same time, I don't want to take for granted the fact that we have Sam Raimi being mean and pukey and awesome again. So, you know, even though this movie may not be the A caliber Sam Raimi movie I was hoping it was, it's a strong B, and I had a blast watching it, and it was just so fun to see in Dolby, and I'm sad that your audience was as into it because mine was, thankfully, and we were all laughing and having fun.
B for blast to puke. Yeah, I mean, maybe one of these days I'll get to watch a Sam Raimi film with a crowd that respects him. I guess Multiverse of Madness, I got a little bit of that. That was a crowded one. But all right, let's take a look at what some of our friends had to say about the movie. Friend of the show, Alex Billington, gave it 3 stars and a heart, no review. Will Ashton gave it a heart, and he wrote, Triangle of Sadness for people who know how to party. Keep the Raimi McAdams collabs a-comin'. As expected, the Scott Spiegel memorial made me misty-eyed.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen Triangle of Sadness.
Yeah, I mean, it's really at the end, but I knew there was going to be something with Scott Spiegel. I don't know if people know. He's like the third wheel for... He's like Sam Raimi's best friend. He died last year. He was integral in making Evil Dead, like him and Bruce Campbell, and so I knew it was like, oh, this movie's going to be dedicated to him. And as soon as I saw the more, I was like, oh man, it just kind of reminded me like, oh, he's gone. Yeah,
yeah. And speaking of Bruce Campbell, he gets a nice little, prop cameo in this that I won't spoil if you haven't seen it.
Oh, I will say,
very fun.
There is one reaction shot from Dylan O'Brien. It comes kind of late in the film where he's doing like an anti-stinker face that's like purely out of Army of Darkness. That was like, all right, you know what you're doing, buddy? And it's like so cool. And it was just like, that filled my heart aflutter.
Sam Noland, a friend of the show, of course, gave it 4.5 stars. So fun to see that Sam Noland has been making some time at the movies lately. Let's see who else we got here. Robert Yanez Jr. gave it a heart. Corey Everett gave it 3.5 stars. Corey is one of our friends. He invented the game Cinephile. And Corey said, Raimi, Elfman, Pope plus McAdams equals dream team. Master filmmaker makes a genre programmer that's better than it has any right to be. See also Panic Room, Red Eye, What Lies Beneath. I loved it. Nice to see Corey had a good time. Ryan Oliver gave it a heart. Go ahead.
Obviously, Red Eye, awesome film. Another Rachel McAdams film. I was thinking about that film with this one just because I was like, man,
I
was
with
Rachel
the trailer,
McAdams,
but not during the movie.
I was gonna say, I was thinking about Red Eye not only because Rachel McAdams in it, but just like, I'm like, man, anytime poor Rachel McAdams gets on a plane, bad
don't
stuff
take that
happens.
Flight. Stay home, girl. Ryan Oliver, he gave it 4 stars and a heart, and he wrote, love that even in a two-hander that Raimi finds a way for someone to get vomited on. Much more of a thriller, in my opinion. I think how bloody and goopy this is being claimed to be is vastly overstated. But dang, do Raimi and especially McAdams and O'Brien understand the assignment. Hysterically funny, squirm-inducing, and yes, it does ultimately explode into some bloody violence. Hell of a ride. Been waiting to see this Raimi again for almost 20 years, and it didn't disappoint. It hasn't been 20 years since Drag Me to Hell, right? I mean,
2009, so it was like probably closer to like 15.
Okay. Wait, so then did I see Muppets movie?
You either watch Drag Me to Hell late or Muppets early.
Yeah, maybe I'm mixing up the movies. Yeah, because I remember it was a double feature. Anyway, I'll remember later. But yeah, I thought this was like just the right amount of like bloody, goopy, or whatever. I didn't hear anything ahead of time of that was setting my expectations astray. But yeah,
I mean, there is something to be said about like it does kind of teeter-totter on the line between thriller and horror comedy. I consider it more horror just because it's Sam Raimi, but it does, have a lot of pot boiler thriller aspects to it. So
it's multi-genre, which is what's great about it.
Normally I get kind of irked when people mislabel horror movies as thrillers, but this time I'm like, yeah, both kind of qualify here. So I understand.
And I think that's it's kind of what makes it a good sell. Because I think people can instinctively pick up on, oh, there's more to this movie than just like a typical horror or a typical thriller or even a typical comedy or satire or whatever. It's like, oh, it's doing multiple things and doing them well. And I think that that's such a great way to market a movie and be like, oh, that's interesting then, because I'm not just going like, this is going to surprise me in some way. I'm going to have an experience with this that maybe is going to be, more inherently interesting than just like, okay, it's horror, blah, blah, blah. I've seen that before.
And I will say, from what I can tell, this movie seems to be doing pretty well at the box office, thankfully, especially compared to Drag Me to Hell, which I remember underperforming. And I feel like that movie underperformed in part because they didn't really sell it as well as they could. They were like over hyping the horror aspect. So like the comedy stuff took people aback who weren't familiar with Sam Raimi. And I feel like this movie, the marketing has been a lot better about like establishing the like horror comedy tone while not showing until you get a ticket all the gooey, bloody, gory stuff. And I will give props to 20th Century for marketing the movie well and selling it well, and for having that bomb ass old fashioned logo at the beginning. As soon as the logo came on, I was smiling, and that smile didn't come down.
Yeah, and to your point, it's made 54 million at the box office so far off a $40 million budget. So not bad. I'm surprised it was 40 million for the budget. I feel like he could have made this with like 30, but okay. I'm not going to nickel and dime the guy.
Well, again, I think I don't know if he can really do a movie like on a 30 or under at this point.
Yeah.
And I love the guy, but I don't know if
one
he
location. I don't know, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
All right. Well, friend of the show, Emma Sasick, also known as Aunt Emma, gave it 4 stars. And Auntie Emma said, as far as I'm concerned, Rachel McAdams did everything correctly and absolutely nothing wrong. I agree. 100%. Well, actually, I don't. Again, it's like one thing where I'm like, friend of the show, Corey Woodruff. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, there's a scene that's very similar to Hard Candy in this film, or a certain scene in Hard Candy, rather. Do you think she did the right thing or should have gone all the way? I've heard people debate this.
I feel like that's a spoiler question.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
All right, we do have to bring it up once we talk spoilers. Okay, Corey Woodruff. He just reviewed it, but he said the vomit, glorious. I agree. I'm glad that the vomit just didn't stop; it just kept going and going. Friend of the show, Amanda the Jedi, gave it a heart. Amanda wrote, working overtime to convince me that Rachel McAdams isn't one of the most attractive women in the world. I would have shut up and said, thank you, mommy. It is a little bit of like straining disbelief, but she does. I like how it comes into the story that she kind of has like a glow up on the island. Like this is her element. And so it kind of works in that respect.
Yeah. And again, I think, I was nervous going into it. Like, how are they going to sell like Rachel McAdams being kind of like,
Michelle Pfeiffer from Batman Returns.
Right. Yeah.
Before she becomes Catwoman.
Yeah. Good callback. Yeah. So
like, wait a second.
Yeah, and that's another movie where it's like, how are they going to sell like the glow down for that? But it's credit to both actresses; they do it.
Sometimes it works. It's not always Uma Thurman and as Poison Ivy. Sometimes it works.
Yes, I thought you were going to do. I don't know why I thought you were going to do My Super Ex-Girlfriend.
What? Why was that the first?
I don't know.
Uma Thurman.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean Kill Bill? No, I mean My Super Ex-Girlfriend. No, I mean the Naked Brothers Band cameo she did in 2005.
Oh, you're referencing things I do not know.
I just tried to think of the most like remote Uma Thurman appearance I know. Kimber Myers, friend of the show, gave it 4 stars and a heart. Kimber wrote, a mildly traumatic viewing experience after having food poisoning, but otherwise a disgusting, deranged delight. Poor Kimber. Hope you're feeling better.
Yeah, I hope she is.
And Charlie Ridgely gave it 4 stars and a heart. And Charlie wrote, so fun, so gnarly, so layered, so Raimi. Rachel McAdams is every bit as good as advertised, maybe better. But everyone expects that excellence from her at this point because she's been delivering so steadily and without fail for 20 years. Dylan O'Brien, though, will hopefully get the flowers he has long deserved after this. He's flown under the radar for a long time, and that's a bummer because he is so talented. This might be his best performance. Charlie, I hope you've watched Twinless if you haven't already, because your boy did a great job in that movie. And I think you're going to like it if you haven't seen it.
I was going to say, yeah, I mean, he's good in this, but Twinless is another level for him as far as his performance goes.
I agree for sure. Aaron Dicer, friend of the show, gave it 4 stars. Aaron wrote, I dig Raimi's sense of satirical humor, not only because it's so fun, but because he has a sense of how to diminish preachiness through complex characters that aren't easily defined. Also, McAdams is a treasure and owns every second she's on screen. Yeah, that's a great point. I think that Raimi is, maybe we were underselling like how he is a little bit preachy about feminism with this movie, but in a way that I bought it. Like I wasn't, like rolling my eyes at the idea, right, of like the capitalism, feminism, hierarchy, work, like all that stuff. I think he kind of sells it, and he does it in a kind of natural. I don't know how he does it. I couldn't pinpoint to you on a map how he did it.
I mean, I think part of the reason, like I said, I put this over something like Companion is that, like, I don't, like, even if he gets kind of, like, preachy about, that's not the main, like, focus of it. He is so much an entertainer that it's just, like, he just wants to do what he can do to get the ample experience, the maximalist experience. And so, like, everything's going to be big in the movie. And so, like, at the end of the day, he wants to be the best entertainer he can be. But, I mean, part of that is giving the message they want to tell, but it's not, beating, it's not solely, I should say, beating people over the head with it, because he's already beating everyone else over the head with any number of things, as he is wont to do as a director.
Friend of the show, Allison Johnson, one of our co-founders at In Between Drafts, of course, she gave the movie 4 stars. And I wanted to give some special thanks to Allison because she has been filling in as TV editor at In Between Drafts. And I feel bad because I've been doing the TV coverage over at IBD, and she's been having to edit my stuff. And it's like 4,000 words, 3,000 words. And she's like, John, can you please lower the word count? My latest piece about Wonder Man, I brought it, it's like 1,500 words. And that's a little bit more helpful, I guess.
Well, I guess, now you know how I feel when I send you a piping hot 2,000 word piece and you're like, John,
2,000.
wait. Yeah, 2,000, yeah. And then,
but it's usually because yours start with like 3 paragraphs about like the Battle of Monaco. And I'm like, Will Ashton, get to the point.
The Battle of Algiers. Yeah, correct.
I love your writing, of course, Will Ashton. You have a gift. Kristen Lopez, friend of the show, gave it 4 stars and a heart. Kristen wrote, there's a Selena Kyle quality to Sen Help's character. Hey, Selena Kyle again. Look at that. Sen Help's character, Linda Little, played by Rachel McAdams, like Selena Kyle specifically in Batman Returns. I generally did not think we would get this much Batman Returns callback in this episode of Thank God for Movies. She's the lonely, nerdy assistant to a domineering, misogynistic boss who gets a second chance on redefining herself through extreme circumstances. No doubt, it's part of the reason social media has been posting about why director Sam Raimi should helm a Batman movie. But Linda Little is no Catwoman. Instead, she dominates a gory, twisted, unpredictable tale that shows the extremes of going native while wrapped up in a story about power dynamics, sexism, and how Survivor might be the favorite television show for some of the scariest people alive.
I mean,
yeah.
Look, I will follow Sam Raimi to the ends of the earth, whatever he wants to direct. And I love, or at least like, pretty much all of his superhero stuff, including Darkman, which is also awesome. That said, the last thought in my mind watching this is, oh, he should do more superhero stuff. I'm like, keep him doing this stuff. This is great.
Please. I love this.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah.
And then lastly, we have Isaac Feldberg. Isaac wrote 2 reviews for this. He gave it 4 stars in his second review. First review, he wrote, Sam Raimi put the Evil Dead shaky cam on a rampaging wild boar. I was overjoyed to talk to him and Rachel McAdams about that. The plane crash sequence, survival tactics, and more for the magazine cover of Fangoria. A very cool Isaac. Glad you had that opportunity. He also wrote, Raimi in full teeth-gnashing, eye-gouging, grinning ghoul EC Comics mode, armed with Rachel McAdams at the peak of her powers, turning every momentary reaction into a 4-course meal without seeming to break a sweat. Wickedly funny and nirvanically gross in all the right places. Exactly what we should demand of a January entertainment. Yeah, that's another thing we haven't really brought up. It's a January movie. And, sometimes we do get fun January movies, but not all the time. We don't always get that lucky.
I mean, this has been a solid January. I didn't get a chance to see Primate, but I heard that was fun, nasty entertainment. And there was 28 years later, The Bone Temple, which I saw today. Good movie. Not what you usually get around this time of year, in addition to Send Help. So, yeah, it's been a strong January. I would love if it keeps this, good train rolling. We'll see how the next 11 months shape out.
So we are going to do like a quick spoiler thing. But first, the Rotten Tomatoes game. Will Ashton, we have 243 reviews counted. What do you think the Rotten Tomatoes score is?
Is it 93%?
Perfect. You didn't cheat, did you?
Not that pretty
fast. All right, I trust you. I believe you with my whole heart. For the audience score, we have, or the popcorn meter, we have 2,500 plus verified rating. Let's see if you can get that right.
I don't know. It's probably like 76%.
No, it's higher. Well, Ashton, you were so good with the first one. It's 87.
Yay.
Flip those numbers around. You're much closer. So yeah, 93 to 87. I mean, it's a hit. Like you said, box office hit. Critics love it. Audiences love it. We love it. And there you go. That's all you need in Send Help. Okay, we're going to open up for a quick spoiler section here. Because we're going to talk about the movie, just like one thing to get off my chest. And I wonder if it's the same thing you were talking about or if you had something different. But if you don't want to get spoiled on Send Help, this is your chance. Get out of here. We don't want you here. We don't want you to get spoiled. We care about you. All right. I don't know if I buy it. I don't know if I buy that she would be willing to murder people. To spend all this time with him. And it's this like kind of love thing. To which I'm like, I get the whole thing where she's all, I need to like change him. You know, I can't go back to that life unless I basically indoctrinate this guy. Like that all clicks. That all to me is like, I understand how she would be that sadistic and manipulative. But to the point of murdering his fiance and this stranger, I'm just like, wait a second. This isn't the Linda that I love. This is not my friend. And it's something that I respect the risk of it, but I don't buy it. Like I don't know if I buy her arc getting to that place. I don't think it's really set up to really work that way because I mean, I get it. Like she would be going back to this life, but I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, of the things I took issue with, that wasn't one of them. For me, it was more
Really?
like I didn't really know enough about his fiancée to believe she would be going to that lengths. Like, if anything, it kind of just felt like he treated her like a trophy wife. And so, like, I was kind of the mind that, like, he potentially didn't like care that much. But yeah, no, I believe that she could murder. When I was or at least do the Phil Collins watch someone die. Actually, no, she does murder in this one. I was more kind of so about like when Dylan O'Brien was like professing his love at the last minute. I was like, I don't really buy this. Like, I feel like Linda would be smart enough at this point to be like, you know, nice try, sucker.
No, I totally
And
agree with that. I was
yeah,
like, because I was hoping she'd be like, when he's like, oh, because I'm an idiot. And she'd be
right,
like, well, I'm not.
right. Yeah,
Like,
that's what I mean. That's what I thought I was gonna go to.
right.
So I
That's,
was a little confused when it's like she's really gonna again like be like taken aback by him like threatening to leave or kill her.
yeah, it was weird. But I mean, at the very least, at least like the last part of it, the whole girl boss golf thing, the
The blondie
transition,
thing. Yeah.
I loved that.
Yeah.
And then when she kind of like looks into the camera, I was like,
Hmm.
sure, let's go with that. I'm down. You know, I think like it ended on the right note, so it didn't ruin the movie for me or anything. But yeah, for me, it was like those. Yeah, it was that stuff. And when you were saying like about like the gap, you mean like when it escalates to them like murdering each other or trying to murder each other?
Like I said, it was like part of it was like I fully buy that the fiance would go to this many lengths to do it just
What was
because we
that?
don't. When it was that, and it's also like I feel like Dylan O'Brien kind of finds a body pretty quickly. I don't know. Granted, it's a small island, and maybe it wasn't like she was that well hidden. I do love how much she used to get out of that ring, though, and also Dylan O'Brien
Yeah.
wearing the ring.
Oh yeah, that was great. That was
Yeah,
good.
that was good.
Yeah, I did see the twist coming as soon as she was just like, "Don't go over there with like the two rocks." I was like, "Okay, yeah, that's where she's getting her stuff. That's where she's getting the knife."
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I do love how much like when we were on that ramp, Sam Raimi's just like, pay attention to this, keep this in mind, all that stuff. I'm like, oh, he's cooking.
Cooking us up some fish.
Right.
The other thing that kind of struck me as odd was like I just felt like the Dylan O'Brien character, he was a little bit too like cartoonishly annoying. Like I just felt like he kept being so like I buy that he's like kind of spoiled and he kind of he's like emotionally unregulated, but he kept making these like choices that like go against self-preservation that did not make sense to me. Like
Well,
he seemed smart enough to me to be like, I'm going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm not going to rebel. The whole thing with the raft, I was like, really, dude? Like, I feel like there were smarter things he could have done if he was feeling like, hey, she's keeping me here. What do I do? I felt like that was kind of dumb. Like that didn't really work for me. But I mean, I guess he is supposed to be kind.
I mean, to me, they make it very explicit that like, just think about him in the same way you think about Ash Williams. And that that mural of him on the wall is like, this is supposed to be his like kin, so he would think the same way that Ash Williams would think, and Ash Williams doesn't really think things through, and so like he's someone who like kind of just flies on the seat of his pants and like doesn't follow through particularly well. So I don't know, I took it all as like he's supposed to be kind of a new version of the Bruce Campbell mold. I could even see a version of this film, with like Bruce Campbell in Dylan O'Brien's role, and like I don't know, maybe Sharon Stone, because she was in Quick and the Dead. I think I could see
Mm.
maybe like a version of this in the '90s that was like with it, like, or I don't know, maybe someone else for the Linda role, but I could definitely see a version of this with Dylan or with Bruce Campbell. in the Dylan O'Brien role. And to me, everything with his character kind of made sense if you think about it in that respect.
I guess, he's a scumbag. And so I get why he would be antagonistic. There were just times where I felt like he was being overly antagonistic in situations that didn't make sense. And it kind of lessened the impact for other moments, I guess. But, I guess that's also part of the text of the movie is that she's trying to like cajole him. And I got to say that whole scene with with the toxins and stuff when she immobilizes him.
That was great.
That's where I think the movie peaks. I think that was like, okay, yeah.
I mean,
that was my no looking back moment.
Yeah, that's a hard candy thing I was talking about. The only thing about that is that, like, I just kind of knew, like, she's not actually going to cut his balls off.
I really wanted it to be the case.
There's a small part of me, and I feel like the movie doesn't play out the way it plays out if she does, but, like, there is a part of me that's kind of like, for as much as he's unrestrained and going for it, that kind of felt like the one, like, all right, he's not going to go that far, but I kind of want him to, because why not?
I think he could have gotten away with it.
I think
honestly.
so, too.
If anything, I think it probably would have sold, like, her being ready to murder someone a little bit better. It probably would have, for me at least, like, it would have sold how quickly he is to try to, like, kill her and, like, all this stuff of, like, I don't know. But, whatever. These are all minor quibbles in
a bleeder.
A delicious stew, yes.
That was so funny.
My goodness. All right, well, also, he wears Calvin Klein. Look at that. All right, well, that'll do it for our review of Send Help and this episode of Thank God for Movies. A lot of options for us to discuss on coming episodes of the show. Actually, I think we've gotten some responses about the logo, but I still have to collect them and stuff so we can find out what the logo name is going to be.
Like
little Reelie guy.
Like new responses or like which ones of the ones that we
people like kind of like emailed their votes and stuff.
Oh,
I don't know if we got any. I didn't look if we got anything on social media, so
gotcha.
we have to make that deliberation when we can. Sure. But if you haven't already, go check out the last episode where it's a little competition to see who's going to name our logo. We narrowed it down to a short list. But yeah, in terms of like what's coming out soon, we have something called Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die.
Yeah,
which looks like a Will Ashton movie to me.
Yeah. Gore Verbinski, he's back. My other guy.
Yeah, I saw kind of like a short teaser for this pretty recently. But yeah, Sam Rockwell, Haley Richardson. I was sold already. But it's nice to see the Pirates of the Caribbean guy back. Wuthering Heights is the other thing. I missed my screening for this. I don't know. I don't know if I want to go see it. It looks kind of boring.
I'm willing to see it if you want to talk about it.
I feel like
if you would rather do something else, I'm fine with that as well.
I'd be more willing to watch Goat. People who made the Spider-Verse movies.
No, yeah, I'm not watching Goat. That looks so
Why not?
Oh, oops. What? I swore. I'm not going to watch Goat. That looks stupid.
But Will, it's about basketball. You love basketball. There's also something called Cold Storage. I don't know about that one. Strangers Chapter 3, no thank you. But thanks for letting us know. Pillion I am going to see on Thursday.
I wish I could see Pillion. No one's picked it up here. I want to see it.
I'm sure it'll come eventually. What are you going to do? It's going to be here. Just wait a minute. I'm actually, there's going to be a Q&A in San Francisco. It's premiering at the Castro. And so we're going to be able to meet Harry Melling is going to be there. And so is the director of the film. I forget his name. But yeah, there you go. What?
So I'll see you there, I guess.
Yeah, well, come on by. Just head on over to San Francisco, and we'll have a good time. We could do the 40th anniversary of Pretty in Pink.
I've never seen Pretty in Pink, so.
You've never seen it? That could be fun. Thank God for movies. Thank God for Pretty in Pink.
The only thing about that is that it's not covered under A-list, so I'm a little like, well, you think you're too good for A-list because you've got
it's Fathom
John Cryer.
The other option would be The Moment, but I don't really have an interest.
Yeah, I don't really.
I'm not the biggest Charlie XCX fan. Bone Temple, I know you've already watched, so that's an option as well. But the problem is I'd have to watch 28 Years Later first, then I'd have to watch Bone Temple. It's a lot.
Man, yeah, you spoiled with having to watch some good movies.
Yeah, my bad. And I don't think there was anything, like, we never got to Zootopia 2. I think we mutually were like, that's fine, let the kids have that. And we never talked about Primate, so that's another skip we could get back into. We never talked about Secret Agent, and that's another one that I do want to see.
Yeah.
The only thing is my screener's expired, so I don't know how I'd be able to watch it now, but probably some kind of way.
Well, I'm still down to do a best movies of 2025 episode. Seems like that is of less interest to you, but I want to do it.
No, I just keep forgetting. I'm sorry, Will Ashton. I'll watch whatever you want, whenever you want to, I guess. Not really.
All right. Let's wrap her up.
That's it. Thanks for listening to Thank God for Movies. So glad to have you. We'll try to be back soon. And thanks as always for listening to the show. Don't forget to subscribe and do all that fun stuff. And from the internet, California, I am John Negroni.
And from an island onto myself, I am Will Ashton.
Woman is an island. See you next time.